Hi, my name is Mark and today I'd like to show you a game called Age of Galaxy. This is the second edition of Age of Galaxy, redesigned by Portal Games, and thanks Portal Games for sending this game for review. The second edition because the first edition was in a small box. This is a new edition with redesigned artwork, upgraded components. You have like dual layer board, there is new art, new icons, new design of most of the game components. Also, this edition includes 5 solo scenarios. If you are curious what exactly is inside this box, you can watch my unboxing video that I have published here on my channel as well. There you can see everything in detail. But what is Age of Galaxy? Age of Galaxy is a 1 to 4 players Euro/worker placement/4X game, rather light, not a rules heavy game, where you will explore space, you will conquer different planets, you will build your alliance, you will develop a lot of technologies, gather resources, influence and relics. In a second I will tell you how the game plays and what you can do in this game. If you have played the first edition you can skip this part, but if you know nothing about Age of Galaxy you can watch my short description and then I will tell you what I like and what I don't like about this game. As I said, Age of Galaxy is a Euro game, worker placement game. The game lasts for 5 rounds and each round you will get 3 action discs that you will be able to place on different actions. You have 9 actions in the game to perform various things. Before you start the game you will gain 7 faction cards. There is a thick deck of different factions. You have 40 if I'm not mistaken, and you get 7 cards. You will have to choose one of those cards as your starting alliance card. Apart from those faction cards you will get a player board where you'll be able to track your resources and upgrade different technologies. So you have to choose one of those faction cards as your starting alliance. And alliance are like cards that you have in your player area that affect different things in the game. Basically they give you special abilities, they give you some special powers. They also tell you what type of planets you can colonize, and they give you some starting resources. So you choose one, and this is your starting faction, and you keep the remaining 6 in your hand. And then you will be able to place those 6 remaining faction cards. You'll be able to use them during the rest of the game. And faction cards can be either used as another alliance cards, because in your player area you have space for 3 different alliance cards, and those 3 cards combined they give you your unique powers. But you can also spend your faction cards on to get resources like one-time bonuses, or you can spend them to colonize different planets than your alliance cards are allowing you to. But the main part is to perform actions, and as I said, you have 3 discs, you have 5 rounds, so basically you will have 15 actions during the game. There is a way to get more actions because there are those trade cards, and at some point when those trade cards, when you perform trade in the game, when those cards are full, you will retrieve some of your action discs back, but basically 5 rounds, 15 actions. And what you can do in the game. Each player will place 1 disc and perform 1 turn. If you play solo, you are the only player. And you can do various things. You have this, you can say, galaxy map, because you have 5 cards. And those cards are, on one hand, round tracker, but on the other hand, they show you which planets you can colonize and what like stars you can explore. So you can explore in this game to gain some star tokens, to gain resources. You can trade because you have different resources in the game. Your basic resources are your strength and your money, and you have like production. But you also have some additional tokens like influence and innovation, or technology innovation I think it's called, and you have those relics that give you additional points when the game ends. So you have different resources, you'll be able to trade them, to exchange them, trade some resources for victory point or exchange one resource for another. You can research. You have your player board with 9 different technologies. Some additional technologies can be printed on faction cards. So if you have your faction, your alliance cards in front of you and they allow you to research technology there, you can also do it. Those technologies will give you bonuses and give you additional options and additional abilities in the game. And you can buy your ships, because you have those spaceships that allow you to like defend the planets that you have colonized on the galaxy map. You can also use those ships to explore, to get those stars tokens for resources. You can retrieve, and retrieve action is like getting those relics, and those relics give you additional points when the game ends. You can scavenge to gain money, you can colonize, you can develop. First you have to colonize a planet, and then when the planet is colonized you can develop this planet. It will give you of course points, and then you can nominate. It's another action that gives you victory points. Basically the goal of this game is to get as many victory points as you can. Of course, those factions that you choose as your alliance, they kind of guide you in different directions of the game, because in 5 rounds you cannot do everything. After all players perform their turns, there is this war phase where you count the strength of each player, and the player with most strength is the like warlord, gets additional bonuses and is able to reclaim another planet from another player. When the game ends, you have to calculate your points. You get points for different things, and basically it's up to you where you get your points from, because when you have those 3 alliance cards in your play area, then you have to check those alliance cards. They come in 5 different colors. They are called loyalties, and you always have the major like loyalty, the major religion, and this is what you get your points for, because each loyalty give you victory points for different things. You can get more victory points from relics, or you can get more victory points from different researching technologies, or for getting planets. So basically during the game, depending on which faction cards you played as your alliance, you will get points for different things when the game ends. When you play solo, of course, you can play solo. There are 2 ways to play this game solo. The basic mode is that you play just to beat your own score. There is an opponent, but the opponent doesn't score points. It only like places different action discs on the board, on the map, to mess with your plans. After all your turns, each round, you will take 2 top cards from this faction deck, and depending on the color of the faction and depending on the planet icon on the faction card that you have drawn for the AI opponent will colonize different planets, or will get some additional ships, or will try to use the nominate actions. So the actions of AI depend on the faction cards that you will draw for it. But basically, as I said, the maintenance of the opponent is very simple. Its goal is to mess with your plans here. And when the game ends, you can calculate your score, and basically that's it. You can write your score down somewhere, and the next time you play the game, you can try to beat your score. There is no achievement sheet or anything, but there is the more advanced solo mode, and you have 5 scenarios in the game. They are nicely printed, they are double-sided, and those scenarios modify the solo mode by a lot, because each scenario card has got different goals, different setup, some rules changes. Sometimes they give you opponents that you play against, so they are not scenarios in terms of story, but they are scenarios in terms of the goals you have to achieve, the setup, and some additional rules. So this is pretty cool. They have different difficulty levels, and when you play those scenarios, you can not only play to beat your own score, but you have like victory conditions that you have to meet in order to win the game. So this is pretty cool. If you have less time, you can play the simple solo mode, just trying to optimize everything and to beat your score. But if you have more time and you want to play something more complex, you can play those solo scenarios. And basically this is how you play Age of Galaxy. So what do I think about this game? I think this game is pretty clever. The most clever part of this game is this faction deck, because on one hand this is like only a deck of 40 faction cards and that's it. But those factions, they really influence the game you will play, because depending on the loyalty of those factions, the planets they have printed on, and the special abilities, you will try to do different things each time you play the game. And because you have 7 cards in your hand at the start of the game, you have carefully planned what do you want to do with those faction cards. If you want to play them as alliance, or if you want to play them as bonuses, or if you want to spend them to colonize those planets. So this is cool, because the replayability of this game is quite high thanks to all those different factions. And the galaxy map where you will travel, that counts the number of rounds but also give you different planets, is also randomly placed each time you play the game. You have different trade cards, there are more of them in the box, and you place 3 of them. Those cards, they allow you to exchange one resources for other. So this is pretty cool for such a, I would say, simple game. The replayability is quite high. Another thing that I like is that in such a fast game, because the gameplay takes like 45 to 60 minutes, you have quite a lot of mechanics, because you have some forex elements, you have planets that you will be able to explore, you have technologies that you will be able to develop, you have different types of resources, you have this worker placement mechanic, and I have to say worker placement is my favorite mechanic in Euro games. You even have to compete with other players and compare the strength. You have an option to reclaim those planets. You have 2 different solo modes, so for such a small game there is quite a lot of variety. The rules are very simple, and learning this game is not complex. You have those reference cards for round summary, you have reference cards for all those icons, so this is cool. I also have to say that I really like the new art. I played the first edition of this game, and in terms of gameplay, it's mostly the same. I think there is basically one change from the first edition to the second edition in terms of gameplay, because you get different points for this, how this is called, this military ideology. I'm not sure how it's called, but the military ideology in this new edition also gives you points for strength, but this is basically the main change. But the new art is really cool. I like the icons, I like the colors, I like the dual layer board, so it looks really, really nice. The first edition was okay in terms of gameplay, but it was not a pretty game, so this new edition looks really, really cool. Okay, you get a bigger box because you have those player boards, dual layers and so on, but still this box is smaller than a typical square board game box. So this is pretty cool. The solo scenarios are nice because they were available for the first edition of the game, but you had to print them on your own, and here they are printed, you know, on those cardboard like cards, so it's nice. So it's nice to have a quick, simple Euro space game that you can play in. When you play solo, the basic mode you can play probably in 30 minutes, because you have like 15 actions, and those actions are not that complex, so 30-40 minutes and you can play this game. But the simplicity of this game is also, in a way, for some people it may be a downside, because it's if you expect something like Voidfall or, I don't know, Twilight Imperium, a complex, heavy Euro game, this is not this game. This is a simple game, this is a fairly light game. The first edition was packed in a small box, so this idea is that this is like a quick, fast space Euro game, and this is what is it. If you are looking for something very complex, this is not the game. Each time you play the game, you'll basically do the same things. Okay, you have different factions, but still you will develop technologies, you will colonize those planets, and you will retrieve those resources, and that's it. So this is not a complex game. For me, this is a pro, because the more I play games, the older I am, the more things I have on my head, the more I appreciate some lighter games. I have shelves full of heavy games, but the problem is that you not always have time to play those heavy games, and when it's, you know, 8 or 9 p.m. and I look at a heavy Euro game and I'm thinking that I have to spend 1 hour to set it up, then 2 and 3 hours to play it, and then I have to put it back to the box. I don't have those 4 or 5 hours when it's like during weekdays at 9-8 p.m. because I have to wake up the next day, I have to go to work, and having a lighter Simpler game is nice because I can always play a game like Age of Galaxy, but I very rarely can play a game like Voidfall. I don't have that many time. But as I said, if you expect something heavy, this game is not for you. And another thing is that I would say this game is, in terms of mechanics and gameplay, is not, it doesn't have anything groundbreaking. There are some clever ideas here, but it's not like you will play this game and will say, wow, this is such a unique game, such new things. Most of the things that you have in this game, you have seen somewhere else. Okay, maybe this faction deck is something unique because you create your alliance, and those alliance, they give you abilities. So in a way, this game is like asymmetric, but it's up to you how asymmetric those factions will be and what factions you will have. But it's, you know, just a simple, I would say, ordinary space Euro game. One negative thing from me, as it goes for the solo mode, is that I would love Portal Games to print a reference card for solo, just like this one, because when you play solo, I'm in the basic mode. Depending on the loyalty of the faction card, the AI opponent is doing something different. And you have, in the rulebook, you have those rules, what AI is doing depending on the color of the faction card it draws, but you have no reference card, and I can't really remember those actions for AI. Maybe if I play this game 10, 15, 20 times, I will remember it, and I wish that Portal Games just could print one reference card more for the solo mode. But all in all, this is a nice game, and now you may wonder, is it worth upgrading from the first edition of the game? And I would say it depends what you expect. If you have the first edition and you like it, but the small box factor is not that important for you, I would say that it's definitely worth upgrading to the second edition because it looks nicer, it got nicer art, nicer layout, better, nicer rulebook. You have dual layered boards and nice components, and you have all those 5 solo scenarios printed. So if you play solo, this is having those scenarios printed is nice. So I would say, if the small size of the first edition is not that important for you, upgrading to the second edition is a good choice. If you have the first edition but you really need a small box Euro game, then you should, stick with the first edition because this box is still not huge but bigger than the first one. And if you have never played Age of Galaxy, I would say that if you are looking for some lighter Euro game that you can play with, not very hardcore board gamers, but the Euro game that you can play with everyone basically, or a Euro game that you can play where you have not that much time. It's a cool game. It's not that expensive. You can pre-order it on Portal Games website. I'm not exactly sure when it will be released, maybe in August, I think. But you can still pre-order it. I'm not sure what will be the availability of this game, because I know that on some markets there is still the first edition available, and I know that Portal Games created the second edition definitely for the US market. I'm not sure what about other countries, because for example in Poland we have still available the first edition published by some other publisher. But yeah, it's a nice, cool space Euro game with quite interesting solo. You have 2 options to play solo, so if what I said looks interesting for you, check this game out. As I said earlier, you can see the unboxing video here on my channel, and I will leave link to Portal Games website where you can read more about the game and you can pre-order it if you like. Thanks for watching this video. Click the like button if you liked it, subscribe to my channel if you like this video. You can visit me on different social media platforms. All the links are in the description. Thanks for watching, see you next time, bye.